Let me add, before we wrap up, a couple of sentences of my own on these sort of 10 years from now. The first thing I would say, before opening for a few questions, the first thing I would say is that, of course, we will have the 20th anniversary event in this room. But what I would add is to say that basically I think we are at a sort of tipping point. I mean, the trends that have been described by Uzi and others throughout this day is that the issue of access to missile and space launch technology is spreading, and that therefore the need for a tool addressing that is very, very pressing in many ways. So in such a context, I can see either a rather gloomy future in which indeed we see missile proliferation networks at play, and more ballistic missile proliferation in a completely uncontrolled fashion. Again, as we've said today, the possession of ballistic missiles is not prohibited, but it is quite different to have some sort of open program in which there is transparency about testing, about activities, about where countries are going, and a situation in which proliferation is occurring in a rather opaque fashion, and you don't exactly know what are the trends, because that prompts further proliferation on the part of neighboring states and creates more incentives to go into this. So in such a context, for the HCoC itself, we would probably see the membership not expanding very much, because the regional situation that prevent the Middle East and most of Asia to join the code would remain the same, as negative anticipation would be the perception of most countries. We see trends also towards tighter technology controls because of that, because of these concerns, which will not be something that will be probably welcomed from southern countries in such a context. So in this, and we see also a higher likelihood of missile use. There has been missile use in the past on a regular basis, but it has not been systematic in all the conflict. In such a context where missile technology and missiles would spread very largely, the tendency to use missiles in conflict, including by non-state actors, would expand and become a critical international security issue, broadly speaking. In a more positive scenario, we would see the code expanding in terms of membership and subscribing states, therefore sending the right signal in terms of the fact that ballistic missile proliferation is not a norm to be fully endorsed by the international community. We would see ballistic missile program where they continue to be under some scrutiny and accountable in terms of transparency, and possibly and hopefully some sort of a reasonable curve on them. We would also see the issue of other missile technology somehow tackled in these debates, whether it's in the code or in other forums. So, and in such a format, and of course this has to do with the more much broader trends in terms of WMD proliferation as well, we could hope for a situation in which the situation, if not entirely controlled, would be, let's say, manageable. And this is where I think the code has some sort of interesting virtues in this context.
So let me express my sincere thanks to all of you for a very active participation. I would also like to highlight the importance of having many representatives, experts from non-subscribing states with us. It clearly shows the interest and also our wish and hope to embark upon an inclusive process with a true aim of universalization. So thank you very much also for the representatives of the academia. Track 2 initiatives and interaction between governments, diplomats, and the academic representatives, I think, will be a very, very valuable part of the exercise we are embarking upon today. This commemorative event was an excellent opportunity to take stock of the origins of the code. Of course, this is not a perfect instrument, we all know that, but as we discussed, that was the best possible achievable document at the time. Yesterday, Ambassador Cho referred to this document, and also you, Director, as an adolescent, 10 years old. This 10 years old certainly shows some signs, positive and negative, of adolescence age. There are certain contradictions in the current operation of the code. There was today a strong wish expressed for better implementation, enhancement, and leading by example in meeting the commitments by all subscribing states, therefore also inviting others to join the code. As for the future, I would like to prefer the more positive one. Certainly, I would say today's discussion should be a wake-up call for many of us. The ballistic missile issue is not irrelevant. This is gaining more and more relevance. Technologically, a very demanding situation, what we are facing now. And I think it was very openly presented to us today, and we have to be aware of this fact. This issue is more relevant than ever, and the international community has to give adequate response to that. I think with that I would like to conclude. Thank you once again. I could promise that we are going to approach you in the future, and of course we are happy to take up your initiatives and suggestions how to support on behalf of the European Union these common goals. Thank you very much for your attention.